All right, so this video I'm going to talk about. I actually forgot to put the actual title in in the fucking description, but this is going to be about like my go a little bit more to like my history. Like when I was in college and I was younger, I wasn't a full grown man yet. I was like technically a grown man, but I wasn't really a full grown man. Pretty much the years when I was starting college. It's snowstorming here in Prague right now, and it's like 40 degrees outside, 40 Celsius. And then I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's like it just started snowstorming. Not storming, but like snowing a lot out of nowhere. But anyway, so I wanted to shed more light on my personal past of of growing. So I remember when I went to school, man, like I had no money, fucked up. um, Like I said, I didn't come from a poor family. I'm not. I don't want to give that. I don't want to infer I came from a poor family. I didn't come from a poor family, but I wanted to do. I wanted to go out there, and I'm the type of person. If I don't do something completely on my own, then I'm going to rely on other people to do everything for me. That's just how I am, and I figured that out when I was like 20. That this is what I'll do. Like if I let my father take care of me, I will live in my room in my father's house, until I die. See, and I realized that about myself. So, and I realized the only way that I'll do something with my life is if I go out there in the world and just do it on my own and do it alone and and go through all the notions of being fucked up. I realized that very early on, man, very early on. Because like if I had chose the other road, I would still be in my dad's house right now, and he would take care of me. And I think honestly, like that's kind of like a really good thing and a really bad thing. But I mean, I'm not calling him bad because I think it's just in a parent's nature to want to take care of their children. So I'm definitely not blaming him, but I seen it within me that yeah, if I stay here, I'm going to just wait for him to bring food home and live in my room and play PlayStation all day, which I play PlayStation all day now, but I'm doing it from Europe on my own dime. but so anyway, but anyway, I'm definitely not trying to say that he did anything wrong. He did everything great. I just had to go out in the world and make my own name for myself. So when I went to college, when I was broke as fuck, no money. And I remember, well, first when I went off, first I lived in the homeless shelters. And then if I wasn't in a homeless shelter, I was sleeping in like an abandoned house or like an abandoned apartment. Like me and a group of friends did it. Actually, one friend of mine, he's actually in my flat now. No, that house wasn't abandoned. The house I was in with him, I think it was like pretty much abandoned at this point, but they hadn't paid the rent. They were going to get kicked out of it. We all just kind of slept there. I think a few nights. I remember one night we woke up and it was like a heavy ass snowstorm. But this was 10, 12 years ago now. But when I first went to college, man, I remember when I first finally got my own place, the only way I even had any money was because I applied for food stamps. And we're pretty much a government handout that's equivalent of about $200 a month to eat for a single male with no kids. I would sell it. So I would get $100, just the common rule of when you sell that type of shit, you always get half of what the government gives you in cash. So I would sell it for $100 every month and then just save whatever I could. And then I got my first little small studio apartment. I think I was paying $250 a month at the time. So when I was, of course I had to find other ways to make money because I had no job. I couldn't find a job to save my life at the time. And I was in school for biotechnology. It was fucked up, man. So I remember the first thing that came along was I would transport hookers throughout the town. I would drive them to the Johns type of thing. Because when you run that underworld full of people, like it's just all this stuff is just natural. Like young pretty girls know they can suck dick to get money. So, but young pretty girls usually don't know how to don't know how to do anything other than sit there and be a young pretty girl. So I would have to drive them to the John. I would get like $10 here, five, 10, maybe $15 here or there. But when you factor in the gas and all that, it was actually a good deal to get your gas tank filled up. So I did that. And also, when I was younger, I was really into computers years ago. I'm not so much now. Like I can still understand the language, and I have a degree in what the fuck is it? Network engineering. But it's been so long since I looked at any of that stuff. I can't remember most of like the inner workings. But I still understand the language when it comes up. So I was really into computers, man, and I always knew how to, because okay, this was like 2008, 2009 ish, when compute like home computers really needed, and laptops, they all needed much more maintenance than they do now. This is before like the iPad had come out. This is before smartphones was out. The only computer was like a desktop computer and laptops from time to time. And I think if you guys remember, netbooks had just started coming out around this time, and people really didn't. People were still really weird about netbooks. They were like, I think they were like $300 or $400 at the time, and people were still weird about netbooks. I think you could even find some of them for like $250. But this was back when computers needed a lot of maintenance. So I always knew how to, like, pretty much reinstall Windows, install drivers, shit like that, defragment it, get viruses off of people's computers. I always knew how to do that. So what happened was I would offer people services. I think I made business cards out, and I would hand out business cards saying like, yeah, I work on computers, blah blah blah. And I would get calls. People want me to fix their computer. And how I ended up with like this kind of like borderline cult of people who would fuck with me with computers is because I would only charge people $20 for pretty much whatever they had wrong with their computer, right? I say just give it to me. I'll make sure it's working right, and you get it back. And so how much you charge? $20. 20. If it was something crazy, maybe $40. I would never charge anything crazy, because my theory, which ended up working, was this: the rate that I was charging people was literally a fifth of what you would pay Geek Squad or some other, IT store for the same shit that I was doing. And two, my return time was so fast, like people couldn't like they had to keep fucking with me. Even if they had to fuck with me 5 times and I fucked up one time, still, like, my rate was just so much better than Geek Squad, fucking any like any storefront that was up. My rate was just so much better. Like people had to fuck with me. So that's how I would get money in those times. And like I said, I still remember the days of looking at my bank account and seeing $3.14 for 3 weeks, and having to think, what am I going to do? And just fill the refrigerator up with like eggs and noodles. Like, I remember those days, man. Don't even get Todd Raymond, man. Don't fuck with that. Just get spaghetti, because spaghetti still has nutrients in it. I would get vitamins, and yeah, man, just eggs, salt, and spaghetti was my meal, plenty a night in college, man. Like, yeah. I mean, it had no furniture, nothing, and all I had was school and that shit. That's all I had, man. And that was majority how I made it through my first degree. That was most of the way how I made it, because like I was applying for jobs. No, for some reason I was that 8% of people who just cannot get employed their entire time. Like, that was me. I fell into that 8%. Man, I could not find a job those first few years to save my fucking life, man. It was just it was. But see, what happened was, and I'll be honest about it. When I spent that time period struggling, like, and I had gotten used to it. I had gotten used to not depending on a job, because like at this point, like, I already knew the notions of what was going to happen, and because I was like, at this time I was still taking out financial aid loans, so you get a refund check. And then I would work on people's computers. I was self-employed. I would get food stamps, sell those food stamps, and also what I learned with the food pantries. I coordinated 4 different food pantries, so I would go to one every week, because you can only go to the food pantry at least at most once every 2 weeks. Usually it's once every month, but at most it's once every 2 weeks. So I just got 4 food pantries, and just we hit up this one, the first week, this one second week, this one third week, this one fourth week, and just that's how I got all my food in. So I was getting free food. I was getting free food. I had money. I was earning money. It was definitely under the table money, but I was earning money, and I was getting my degree. But I say, even then, like, I mean, because you got to remember too, I was younger, so I was still a little dumb. I still really probably wasn't making the smartest moves with money and shit. Like, now I know, but at the time I was a rookie in it. I didn't really know, but I was, man. I was. That's all I did, man. That's all I did. I forget how I ended up stumbling on like an Xbox 360, but I remember when I got that Xbox 360, I had a girlfriend to come over, and and to be honest with you guys, she was probably one of the girls who I like. that was a girlfriend you really should have kept around, and I didn't because I didn't give a fuck. Like probably because I was probably so focused on like keeping college and my fucking flat going at the time that I really wasn't paying the girlfriend any attention. And I fucked her over. I didn't fuck her. I fucked her over, but I fucked her over. I left. It was her birthday, and we met, and I left her in a bar on her birthday. It was real fucked up what I did because I was just like my brain was just so far on other things. Like I really wasn't thinking about her but she was great, and I can't talk shit about her. She would cook, she would clean. The first girlfriend I had in college, she was great. I fucked that up, but that's all over because she's hit the wall, had 2 kids by 2 different men. She's just all fucked up now. But yeah, that was pretty much my story, man, for those first 2 or 3 years. Then I went to the military, got medically discharged, and then I remember I kept going to the VA trying to get disability, and I remember everybody in VA kept saying, "No, they're not gonna give it to you for this. They're not gonna give it to you. They're not gonna give it to you. They're not gonna give it to you." So I would keep trying. I would get rejected. Keep trying to get rejected. So fine. One time I tried and I got accepted. And if you know in the military, you know how that works. Like once you get accepted, like that, you're in for good. Like so, I got disability pumping. So when I came back, I had disability payments. I already knew how to operate on my own. So I like that whole need for a job, that whole need to fit in with a group of people, all of that was stripped out of me at like 21, 22, man. So like that's why I say in a lot of videos, like this is why I don't get along with a lot of people who do work 40-hour week jobs, because when I first started college, man, like a lot of that shit got a lot of that natural feeling of wanting to belong with other people. It just got stripped out of me throughout those years. Like I just got so jaded and shit, like to the point where I would just now I'm to the point now I'd rather just suffer than to deal with that shit. Because like when those first 2 or 3 years being on my own like that, getting rejected for job after job, filling out application after application after application, and never hearing anything back for years, like that shit'll fuck with you, man. And that's what did to me. So like now I'm to the point where I'm just like, look, fuck jobs. Like I'd rather just struggle and do my own thing instead of ever have to depend on some job for my survival. It stopped snowing that quick. Here, I'm gonna show you guys. Now you couldn't even tell it was snowing. Sun's all out down in the center of Prague. You couldn't even tell it was just snowing like that. But yeah, man, like so like that. So when I talk about jobs, like when I say this stuff, I'm not saying it to like talk bad about anybody who is working a full-time job. I'm not trying to talk down about anything like that. I think personally, I'm just jaded because, like I said, for years, I tried for years to get jobs, man. I never heard anything back. While I was trying to go to school, nobody gave a fuck. So I created this vengeance against the workforce and just doing on my own like that. And that's honestly where, and I told a good friend of mine that here, like that's pretty much what happened. I just created this, this deep, vengeful attitude against work, against regular jobs. That's why I hate them. Because like I said, I tried for years and it just stripped me. Like it stripped all that need and want to, because the world pretty much, I took it as the world pretty much just told me, we don't want you. So I pretty much turned and said, fuck it. Well, I don't want you either. I'll do my own thing. And that's what happened. That's what now you would call it a win or a loss. That's depending on your perspective. I'm not trying to say I win or lost at all. That's just my story on I guess a bit of my story of how I became who I am today, and also why I have so much more insight on women and hookers, because I've been dealing with them. But my first girlfriend was a stripper. Who chased me down. Okay, I've had more behind the scenes experiences with bitches and with money and with life that formed my opinions. This is why I try to tell guys all the time, like, money is not going to fix everything. Money can make some things easier. I'll say that. It can make things easier, but it's not like, I'm telling you, like, it's one of those things you can't see it until you see it. And it's like, yeah, he was right. God, matter of fact, I don't know if anybody's been watching this long to this video, but I watched this guy named Super GT. He races on Gran Turismo online. He streams his videos. Great guy. I definitely recommend you watch his shit. He does live streams and makes videos. If you like racing, that is. If you don't like racing, then I don't know. But and I could see it in his face. And I thought about this channel when I seen it in his face, because somebody asked him. he would always kind of like mention how he used to work in a factory and his YouTube channel started taking off, and he used to just play for fun, but now it's his full-time job to stream video games to other people, and you can see in his face like he's really not liking it anymore. And I think I think he would understand what I'm saying now of it. Until you get to this point, I think it's more difficult to see it. When you're working, because I did work jobs before I went to college. So I worked in factories. I worked my fair share of jobs before I went to college. So I know, like, I can understand that side of it, where you may be working like in an office or a factory or a warehouse, and you can't even imagine being paid to do something that is actually beneficial to your life as an individual. And to you, like that is complete fucking heaven, right? And me, the Super GT guy, and I'm sure many other people were the lucky ones who did, for whatever reason, however the universe aligned for them, it got them out of it. And at first it is fun, but then what you'll and I guarantee a lot of retired people could tell you this too. What you'll find is that once you do make it out, you always have to keep some form of full-time job going. Okay, even if you don't have anything to do. Because what's going to happen is you're going to end up so separated from, the majority of people, because the majority of people are working because they have to work, and a lot of people, they hate their lives because they have to work. So that's a whole culture within itself that I don't associate, that I can't mesh with anymore. Because for one reason, like I'm just on a different time. I'm just on a different thought process now. And two, they might be jealous of me, and they may be mad at me, or they may be like, man, yeah, you got it, man, whatever, blah, blah. Like, okay, another perfect scenario. I watched an interview with Jim Carrey years ago, and he went on. This was before he went pretty much crazy now, like where he is now. Because I think I can explain where Jim Carrey went. Jim Carrey and Charlie Sheen, I can explain where those two went. But this is back when Jim Carrey was still more sane, and he was going on I think it was like Letterman. He was going on about how people think that everything's perfect just because he has a lot of money. And he said he could literally talk to some people and say, yeah, man, my grandma's dying. And then the other person be like, yeah, whatever, you're fucking loaded. Like, what the fuck? Like, if the dude's grandma's dying, like, money can't fix that shit, son. Like, money is not gonna fix everything. Like, you still always have a scenario you have to deal with. I mean, yeah, it'll make your life look prettier, and things will, some things can be easier, but then your hell can be everything being easy. Just like the Twilight Zone episode. It's my favorite Twilight Zone episode. I think it's called A Nice Place to Visit, where the bank robber gets shot, and this man in a white suit comes and takes him and puts him in a world where he gets everything he wants. Well, yeah, at first it was heaven, and he thought he was in heaven. He goes, yeah, he's like, he's fucking all the bitches. He's winning all the casinos. He's getting anything he wants. And after about a week or two, he starts to get bored. And and the guy in the white suit still comes around. He says, well, what do you want? He goes, well, I don't want what I want. I want something that I don't know. like this can't be heaven. And then the guy in the white suit at the end of the episode tells him, like, no, hold on, you thought this was heaven. No, this was hell, son. Like, you are deemed to get what you want for eternity. And that was that man's hell. That was the bank robber's hell, to get whatever he wanted for eternity. You see, and the hell really in this scenario, the hell isn't really getting what you want. The hell is never understanding yourself. And I think a big part of this is a lot of people think they understand themselves, but lock them in a room for 2 or 3 days by themselves. And they're just everything will just be fucked up. You see, like they can't, like with this quarantine shit. That's why so many people, well, I don't know if it's in the US yet, but here, the quarantine, people just start saying, fuck it. They got to run away from themselves. They got to go out and see shit. Because like it really gets to a point where you have to run away from yourself. Like if you've never lived with it. Like I was lucky enough to figure this out at a younger age. So now I'm perfectly fine. For example, like my father, he was one of those guys who worked since he was a little kid. Now he grew up in he grew up in poverty, and he had to work literally his entire life. So now he's retired, and the motherfucker's still running out all the goddamn time. Like, because he does, like, I know he doesn't want to admit it, but the reality of it is, it's difficult to sit down with yourself and just sit down and just be, just simply be. That is probably the most difficult thing on the planet for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't even realize it. And a lot of retired people, this is what either they have to go out and they got to keep doing something, because they've never had enough time to really sit down with themselves and figure themselves out and think deeper and deeper into themselves. You see, like the retired people, now they got a pension coming in every month. They don't have to worry about, like my dad, he doesn't have to worry about money. But now it's the other demon coming along. It's, well, now you're free. Be free. You see, and being free is not, it is a lot of times being free is a punishment for a lot of people, believe it or not. But yeah, that's just my history, man. That's my philosophy and my history on a little bit more into my history of what I did.